Today what I wanted to do, since I haven't vlogged in a little bit, I wanted to do a video about a comic that came out this week called Heroes in Crisis that's written by Tom King, and talk about the book a little bit, but a different concept a lot. And the book itself we'll start with. So, I didn't hate it. I'm not as angry with Tom King as everyone else is. I like his style of writing. I like the way that he approaches storytelling. And I like the fact that he is willing to delve into the dark. And he can delve into the dark without coming across like he's being edgy. And that's a rare gift. It's a very rare gift when it comes to storytelling. Because, you know, when you delve into the dark, when you delve into dark subject matter, like psychology, like thought processes, especially those of killers, or of just violent individuals, it's not easy to do so and, you know, come across like you're trying a little too hard. There are some writers that for a long time have had that problem and either just gave up at some point or I don't even know what. The thing is, and you're going to hear some beeping and I apologize for that, the problem with those writers is, again, you can kind of tell they're doing what they're doing for shock value, as opposed to, you know, any sort of means of really telling a story. And I cannot throw that at Tom King's feet. I just can't do it honestly. Some people will. I vehemently disagree with you. From beginning to end, that's what's going on here. Now, again, I think that there is an inevitability whenever the reader sees character death, especially characters like, spoilers, Roy Harper or Wally West, two characters I quite like, just biting the dust. And especially to seemingly just shock the audience. And the story, for better or worse, pans out as this fight between Harley Quinn and Booster Gold, who apparently were both at this sanctuary receiving psychological help with issues that they have, you know, killing these heroes. Or so they say. Now, here's my thought. Judging by the characters that are the foremost characters, and the fact that two of the people who died were Roy Harper and Wally West, both of whom were featured in fairly important stories recently, Wally more so than Roy, is that there's a chance that this probably isn't going to have any sense of permanence to it, and on top of that, I have a feeling that there's a frame job here. So, one thing you kind of realize with Tom King, especially his writing, is this comes across like Vision did, and that was a mind screw of a book, and I have a feeling he's trying a similar style here. But that's that one book. What I find interesting is the way that fans look at the death of a character, and then the way that a writer looks at the death of a character. Because, so let me just say this. I'm the kind of a guy who, when I write, you know, I'm obviously not a writer yet because my first books have not been published yet. But in the process of writing Inglewood and Project Lazarus, and also planning out future stories that I want to do, one of them I want to do a graphic novel about the first person that Dracula ever turned, called The First Servant. I want to do another vampire story that's actually a parody called Bill the Vampire Hunter that features a guy who is a lichen or lycanthrope who does not gain extra hair when he transforms, so he's technically a hairless lycanthrope, but he has a skullet with dreads like Devin Townsend did during the Strapping Young Lad days, and he's just completely apathetic to everything. And his motivations for doing what he's doing are just downright silly. But I want to do that as well at some point in the future. You know, there's a ton of thoughts. that I have. But whenever I come up with a story and I confirm, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to outline the first series of issues, and then I'm going to come up with an outline for the next 5 years. It's how I do stories, really, is if I was writing a book, what I would do is I would write the first chapter, and then I would outline the rest of it, so when I have enough ideas for what's going to go on in that chapter, I'm going to come back to it. I've got my outline there for how I'm going to piece it together of like what the objectives are, and then I'm just going to write it. But one thing that I personally am not afraid to do is kill a character. I'm not afraid to do it, to get a reaction out of the audience. Because here's something that's commonly misunderstood from the writing side of things, just as somebody who's written short stories, and just did so like in a small college area, you know, of people who just read my stuff, is everything we do as creative people, when it comes to fiction, is to get a reaction. If you do not react to the story at all, in one way or another, we failed. We failed. Now, the question is whether or not you as the audience are reacting from a gut reaction of, oh my god, somebody that I just really, really enjoyed reading is gone now, or you're doing this to try to shock me. And the interesting thing about it is it's the reverse of the death of the author. I have a feeling that there are going to be points in Project Lazarus where, spoilers, somebody's going to die. And there's going to be points in Inglewood where, spoilers, somebody's going to die. Not millions. Or maybe. Just maybe millions will die. No, I'm kidding. But it's going to happen at some point or another. And it might be somebody you're attached to. In that case, I have a feeling I will probably get accusations of doing something for shock value. But it's the reverse of death of the author in my way. You know, I think that a lot of people like to project what they think is going on into the author. But really, you have to listen to the author himself to really understand whether or not he really did it for shock value. So, what I would ask for people to do is to understand that perspective a little bit more before you judge a book. Because that might not be the case at all. It might just be that the writer wants to make sure you're invested. Wants to make sure that you understand that the story that they're telling has consequences to it. You know, the only time that I really thought that a lot of people were being killed off for shock value was probably back in, I want to say, early to mid 2000s DC. But even then, as I go back and I read those stories, because a lot of it was done by Jeff Johns, and some of it was Ethan, I know you're watching, some of it was done in Green Lantern, but when I went back and I read those stories, like Ethan and Jeff's Green Lantern, like Infinite Crisis, and other stories, I started to realize that, you know, there was, when I let myself be immersed in the story, and I stopped thinking about the rest of the world around me, and I really gave myself over to the writer like they wanted me to. I sound like I'm like about to have sex with them or something, so that's kind of gross, but that's not what I mean. But when I really allow myself to be immersed in something, I really feel like it's sort of like when you eat for flavor. This is a slice of keto pizza here, and I'll give the recipe out some other time, but the thing about eating something like that is that I'm not just eating it for fuel, I'm eating it for the flavor. And I want to, every time I bite into it, I want to take special attention to how it tastes so I know what I did right and I know what I did wrong. As a critic, that's kind of what I do with media, is I allow myself to be pulled in. And a good piece of fiction will pull me in and keep me there. And then a bad piece of fiction will do the opposite. You know, I didn't get pulled out by this book by Tom King. I haven't yet by his work. So I think that there's a purpose to these deaths. I think that there's a purpose to deaths in general in books. My what I just ask is somebody who is fearful a little bit before he gets into what he's working, is that you, the audience, this is just my request to you, I guess, in this vlog, that you, the audience, will please give me the benefit of the doubt when it comes to my writing and the things that go on in it, that I'm not trying to shock you, and a lot of people probably aren't either. I'm just trying to move you. That's it. So, that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching. My name is Micah Curtis, and I'll see you next time. Dave's Vault.